Hello, my name is Bill Zeiders. I'm the Director of Digital Media and Marketing with Pennsylvania Farm Bureau.
I'm Darrin Youker, Director of State Government Affairs for Pennsylvania Farm Bureau.
Hello, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good.
All right.
Good.
Great. We just had a hearing. We were just at a hearing on the House Game and Fisheries Committee on SB 147, which, if you don't know, is the Sunday hunting bill.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
I think it went rather well. It was us and then some proponents of Sunday hunting, trying to discuss the merits in front of the committee. I think a little bit of history is worth discussing here. So if you might remember, at our annual meeting last year, our delegates determined a few sets of policies positions that would allow Farm Bureau to be neutral on the issue of Sunday hunting. So our delegates wanted to see, one, that hunting-related trespass was made a lot stronger, because it isn't right now. It's fairly weak in the state of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they wanted to limit Sunday hunting to 3 days with a focus on deer hunting. And number three, if there was going to be hunting on Sunday, they wanted to make sure that hunting on private property took place with prior written permission. So that was the set of criteria that our delegates established. And starting as early as December of last year, we were called into meetings with lawmakers asking where Farm Bureau's position was and how we could be neutral. So Senate Bill 147 was introduced in early January, and it did not hit all of our policy positions. It originally was going to give Game Commission full authority to establish Sunday hunting, and it, full credit, it did address the trespassing issue, but it didn't hit all of our policy objectives. So we opposed it, continued to oppose it. The bill was voted on in the Senate at the end of June, and before they took that vote, it was substantially amended to reduce it down to 3 days. And so it got a lot closer to where we could be neutral, but it still lacked that written permission piece. That's kind of where the bill stands, and we continue to oppose. And so at the hearing, the House Game and Fisheries Committee, that's the first step for the bill in the House. They asked a lot of good questions about Farm Bureau's stance and about the concept of written permission. And we just kind of reaffirmed where our organization was on the bill, and the fact that trespassing in Pennsylvania needs to be made stronger regardless of whether 147 wins or loses. Right. And that hunting on private property with prior written permission is just good hunting ethics.
Trespass and wildlife issues are very important to our members. If you look in our policy book, there are 6 pages of policy plus another page of policy just for trespass issues. So it's an important thing for our members. So this is an important bill.
That's absolutely important. And Farm Bureau has supported other legislative initiatives on hunting-related trespass that solely dealt with that issue. There's bills that have been introduced in the House over the past 2 years, or the past 2 sessions, I should say, that were just dealing with hunting-related trespassing. We have policies in our book, and that was on trespassing about, people not being allowed to place tree stands and trail cams on private property without permission. That comes about because a farmer found on his or her land those kind of materials, and it were placed there without permission. Mm-hmm. Trespassing is a huge issue, and one that we'd like to see, addressed in some way, shape, or form. It just so happens that this issue always gets tied together with Sunday hunting. Right. So I think it's good that our delegates gave us or gave the organization a set of criteria that would allow us to be neutral. Essentially, what they have done is answer the longstanding question: how can Farm Bureau be neutral on the issue of Sunday hunting? Mm-hmm. That message has been clear since December of last year, and we're going to continue to reiterate it throughout the future discussions on this bill.
Right, and one thing that came up was that this is not the written permission is not a new thing that we're suddenly throwing in at the end. The policy book has been out since December. They've had the book that has all those stipulations in there and what our position would be.
we've been consistent in discussing, when this bill was in the Senate and now in the House, the written permission aspect. And you're right. One of the things that we do as an organization is we give every member of the General Assembly a copy of our policy book, and it is very clear in that document. Here's how we could be neutral on the issue of Sunday hunting. Other states require a written permission piece, like our neighbors in Ohio.
Okay.
No matter the season, no matter the species, no matter the date, you need prior written permission. And I think it's also worth noting that at the Game Commission, and it came out during the hearing, that is a strong recommendation that the Game Commission gives to hunters, that if we want to improve the hunter landowner relationship, prior written permission is good. So it's beneficial to the landowner, but it's also incredibly beneficial to the hunter. That if, let's say, this requirement was to become law, that hunter now has proof that they have permission to be on that private property. It no longer is a he said, she said. It is a documentation that says, yes, law enforcement officer, I have the permission to be on this ground.
It's beneficial both for the landowner and the hunter, I would think.
Oh, it's beneficial for both parties, absolutely.
Yeah. So, where does the bill stand now after the hearing?
Not sure if and or when the bill is going to be voted on by the committee, because the hearing did get a little bit contentious, and fortunately some organizations were kind of questioning our organization and were directing commentary towards us, and that's something that some lawmakers took exception to. One of the strengths of our organization is the relationship that our members build with their local elected officials, with the representatives and senators. And we see it all the time. How many of our members come to Harrisburg each year and interact with their lawmakers? And how many of our county farm bureaus hold legislative farm tours and invite members of the General Assembly onto the farm to talk issues, to build relationships, and the phone calls and the emails that go in. And that has been, I think, just such a strong part of our organization and part of the culture of Farm Bureau. It's at hearings like this that the strength of that relationship is just affirmed again and again. And that is something that our members need full credit for the work that they put into relationship buildings. It pays off, so that when another organization might question the legitimacy of Farm Bureau, lawmakers are quick to defend us because they know how we go about doing things. They know the strength of our member engagement. It's just it's refreshing to see, and it's great that we interact with lawmakers on so many issues, not just Sunday hunting, but everything that affects rural farm families in Pennsylvania. And it's that constant interaction that I think builds strength and builds legitimacy. So when lawmakers step in to defend us, I think that should make our members incredibly proud, because that's their hard work paying off.
Yeah, and that they've put in the work, and it shows.
Oh, it shows, absolutely.
It's trust that we built, and that's the hardest thing to build, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so much of legislative advocacy is relationship building, and through building relationships, you build trust, and that's something our members are exceptional at, and they should take a lot of pride in.
So back to the bill timeline now. Where do we think the bill stands at this moment in time?
So, based on some of the comments we saw in the media, I think there is no immediate push to get the bill voted on. I think probably there's likely going to be sort of a couple of weeks of thinking about the testimony and thinking about some of the points that were brought up. So I can't expect that we're going to see a committee vote on this anytime in the month of September. So what would need to happen to get the bill to the governor is the House Game and Fisheries Committee would need to vote on it. Then the full House would need to vote on it and then send to the governor. If the bill is amended in any way, shape, or form, it would then need to head back to the Senate for what's called a concurrence vote. So, all of those processes would still have to be followed, and then including a vote by the Pennsylvania Senate. And there seemed to be some interest in addressing the issue of hunting on private property with written permission. And certainly, if the bill was amended that way, Farm Bureau could be neutral. But it's tough for me to really say what a timeline would be, but I don't think we could expect quick movement on the bill in the short term.
Okay. Also brought up was the purple paint law, which also addresses trespassing. What's that bill?
So that's a completely separate legislative issue, but something we wanted to bring up to everybody's attention. So Representative Dawn Kiefer has introduced House Bill 1772, which is a bill that would allow for landowners to post their property with what's called purple paint stripes. Other states do this, including West Virginia, and that application of purple paint along your property boundary on trees and fence posts has the same legal effect as our traditional, no trespassing signs. So it's beneficial to the landowner because, one, it's a lot easier to maintain. Two, it's nearly impossible to deface those kind of things, as opposed to just simply ripping down a no trespassing sign. So as long as the landowner is judicious at keeping up those purple paint stripes, it's pretty tough to argue that you didn't see the sign. So I think it's important to know that this isn't just dealing with trespassing in relationship to hunting. It is all trespassing. So if there is an ATV rider or something along those lines that is on your property that's been flagged by purple paint, that's trespassing the same way as if somebody was hunting on your property without permission. So it's a separate legislative initiative, but since we're having a conversation in general about trespass, I think it's worth bringing up that bill as part of a discussion. And regardless of the future of Senate Bill 147, we're going to continue to push for purple paint legislation and hope that the House takes up this initiative in the fall.
Okay. Darrin Youker, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Always happy to join.
All right.